Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
The second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Gordon with us
at Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
January 15th, 2024. What's going on? We are the Turn 2 Terribles here with another episode, our second episode of the 2024 season. Excited for this one tonight. We got a special guest with us, Tony Jackson. Had a great wing and wingless, obviously, Sportsman season this past year, winning the Sportsman 100 at BAPS and plenty of other races. And we'll talk to him about, get to know him a little bit, his past, and what's going on here for him in the future. And then we'll just recap some news and notes, take a look at Chili Bowl a little bit. Jeremy, you went to a banquet this weekend and got a little recognition. And then, Chris, we'll talk about what you got going on later on as well. So, fellas, how you guys doing tonight?
Awesome. Ready to go, man. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, same. Excited.
Let's get right into it. We're going to bring in Tony Jackson. Thank you for joining us. Let me get this going here. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Good, man. Hey, welcome to the show, dude. I appreciate you jumping on with us a little bit. And you were on our, I feel like our list is long of people we want to have on here, but it really isn't. And you're on that short list. And we talked about it last year a little bit. And probably a good idea that we didn't last year because we'd have you right back this year and want you back for kind of what you have going on and what you've announced. But I'm going to go back first. We're going to get to that here in a minute and talk about 2024. But I don't know a lot about your history and your family's history in racing, if any. So if there's a lot of people like me, and listen, I know that there's plenty of people out there that do know, but I don't, and I know maybe Jimmy and Chris don't. Give me a little bit of background on your family's history in racing and kind of your history.
Okay, so just to bring you up to speed real quick, obviously I'm second generation driver. My dad raced at the Springs from the late 70s to about 90, and that was actually for my uncle. So that was kind of a tight family deal there. Won a lot of championships, 3 or 4 and Silver Spring championships. I think they won the 100 4 times, had a really good career. And then he ended up coming back in 96 and 97 and racing for Highlands for Zane. And then he tinkered with some sprint car stuff a little bit here and there. My racing career got started. I raced micro sprints for about 4 years. I want to say it was like 90 through 2003. And then I gave it up. Just, I didn't want to, it costs a lot of money, obviously, to do this sport. And I just kind of was going different directions and getting out of school and stuff, different things. But anyhow, so I gave my racing up for a while, and then 10 years ago, I got back into it. Claire Finkenbinder approached me about driving, so I drove for him for, I guess, 7 years. I think we raced a combination of wing and wingless. We were kind of the only team. I don't want to say the only team, but we were the team that kind of did a lot of both. One year we actually ran, I think, pretty much all the wing races and almost all the wingless races. It was a busy year. But it made me a better racer. We raced a lot. And then he decided he was going to step away from it. And I got a call from Scott and Lori Hess, and they gave me the opportunity. He wanted to get back into the sport. For the last 2 years, I raced for him, and we've had a lot of success in 2 years. And last year we started kicking this around a little bit early in the year, and then by the middle of the year we started putting things together for 2024 as far as moving forward and going 410 racing. So it's kind of exciting. And then also as we're talking family, my cousin Barry Jackson is actually the crew chief for CJB, and he did this he actually started with my dad at the Springs back in the 80s. So he's kind of worked for a lot of people, Kenny Jacobs, Sammy Swindell, a lot of people. So, but he's been with CJB for quite some time now.
So definitely a family tradition
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, right? Not just who
It
you've
is.
raced for, but and continuing to race for, really. So,
Right.
I kind of looking back a little bit, and I'm a little bit of a latecomer when it comes to following your career. And
Mhm.
oh, okay, we got our first question. What was your dad's name?
My dad's name was Larry.
There you go. I'm pretty sure I knew that, but I wasn't going to just assume.
Yeah.
Silver Spring, I was young, but I never got there a whole lot. I was,
Mhm.
a Susquehanna kid. I'm from York, so
Yep.
Susquehanna was up the street for us. It was pretty close. But following your career the last 2 years and really how much ass you kicked is really impressive in a very difficult division. Really, I mean, there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of good cars. There's a lot of I think experience trumps a lot in that division. I really believe that watching it. And
I agree.
it doesn't have to be the best stuff. You don't have to have all of it, right? I think we see that. What have you found in the last 2 years that really, obviously I know the common things are the team, but what clicked for you in this car in this time right now? What really did it for you? Was it just a bunch of stuff all at once?
Yeah, we just have a very good package. Scott, my owner, he also sets the car up and everything. He's the crew chief. He does a tremendous job with getting me comfortable. We have an awesome shock package, and everything just works. I hardly ever go out on the racetrack from the hot laps to the heat to the feature where my car doesn't get better all night long. So I just know I need to go out there and not mess up. And with the equipment we have and with the confidence I have in him with getting the car where it needs to be, I know we're going to have a fast race car, a car that's usually capable of running at the top, in the front three or whatever. And then it's just a matter of staying out of trouble and getting the job done. And I feel like, that's kind of on me because they give me a race car there, every night. Obviously, you're not going to do that every night, but, I look back at last year. We had 41 races scheduled to race. We ended up running. Sorry, something just popped up here.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, that's private.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't sure if you could still see me or not.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So anyhow, we ended up running last year, I think 29 races. We had 12 rainouts, but in those 29 races, we scored 12 victories. We had 6 seconds. And, a handful of thirds, fourths, fifths. We did have some motor issues last year that really just took us out of any point situation. We just had some part failures and just one of those years where luck wasn't on our side. Numerous times we were, ran our heat race and qualified well to start, towards the front of the feature or even 10th or 12th, depending on handicap night, and went to go out for the feature. And we had motor failures, before we even started the feature or on the first lap of the feature. So that was kind of a bummer, but, But as far as when we were on the racetrack last year, I felt like we had a chance to win darn near every race we were in, which is kind of incredible.
I mean, it really is, and it was hard to ignore it. It was hard to not watch where you were and what you were doing. Was it Williams Grove where you were coming up through the field, got in an accident, went to the back, came back and won? I'm pretty sure that was that night, right?
Um, no, that would have been
That was BAPS.
That was
that was
BAPS.
the final, yeah, that was the final race at BAPS. That was the wingless race at BAPS. That
That's
would have
right.
been the Finkenbinder Memorial, which is actually a good paying race. That's actually probably the biggest wingless race all year. I've been fortunate enough to win that the last 2 years. It's like a $4,000 to win race. So in a super sportsman, that's great money. But anyhow, yeah, we got in a wreck early on, and it actually tore the car up pretty bad. We got in the pits and luckily got back out. I think we restarted about 22nd or 23rd, and I just kind of, I knew I had a lot of laps. It's a 40-lap race, and I have a lot of laps at that track. So I just kind of found my way and started picking cars off. And the next thing I know, it's like, man, we have a chance to win this. And yeah, it was just there again. The car just worked so good, and I can still remember Billy Bryan. We're good friends, and we race hard against one another. And he was leading, and I think I got him with about 4 or 5 to go. And he told me in victory lane, he's like, "That's the best race car I ever had here, and you just basically went around me and left me sit." And that just goes to show you how good they had my race car. So I just had to be, smart enough and make the right decisions and drive it.
Wait,
So were you able to see while that's going on, you knew you had a lot of laps. Were you gauging kind of like, okay, I can see the front, I'm counting cars and counting laps, or was it just keep going until you see the checkered flag and see where it ends up?
Like I said, for the first few laps, my car, I just tried to feel out to make sure everything was okay. And then I just started to get a few cars, and we would get a yellow, and a few more cars, and we'd get a yellow. I think around halfway, I kind of told myself, I'm like, wow, we're up to 10th. Now we have a chance to actually win this. Obviously, the further towards the front you get, the harder they are to pass. But I think just everything fell right. We had the right brakes. We got some cautions because you do need cautions when you go to the rear, obviously. And it just worked out. It was
Yeah.
kind of pretty cool.
Um, how many times this year did you do a double, or was that even a thing? Was it just once? How many times were there wing and wingless together?
So we did a double at Williams Grove, and that was a second place finish in the wing race. We started 9th, and we got to 3rd, and we raced Scott Delliner and Kenny Ekins for the lead there with about 5 to go. It was a heck of a race. It was actually an incredible race. There was a lot of people talking about that race that night. Us three went almost 3 wide for like the last 3, 4, 5 laps. Kenny ended up passing Scott. Scott was leading. I think Kenny passed him with maybe 2 to go, and then I ended up getting Scott with 1 to go. So we ended up second in that, and then we won the wingless race. And then also last year was Path Valley, where we won both of those. And then the year before we did the double at BAPS, and we won both of those. So we've did that. We've actually won the doubles 2 different times. Last year at BAPS, and then this year at Path Valley.
So I wanted to ask you about just that idea. Listen, you're a professional. Like, to me, that I feel like it would getting out of one, getting into another at a place, maybe in BAPS because you're just so comfortable, like a Williams Grove or a place that you don't run a ton of and do the double. Do you have to feel that out for a lap or two to kind of get your bearings and with the wing and the wing on and off? Or are you kind of like, hey, I've done this, I've been there, done that?
Well, I've done it enough but I always tell myself when I'm going out on the racetrack, it's kind of like, it's like checking your brakes. When I go out on the racetrack, first thing I do is pump my brakes, make sure I have good brakes. But I always tell myself, I run it through my head. Okay, I have the wing on, so I know I can go into 1 or go into 3 pretty much as hard as I want. Versus if I have the wing off, you have to back the corner up, because if you go in there like you have a wing on, you're probably not going to make it through the turn. Well, you're not going to make it through the turn because the car is going to skate on you and take off. You're probably going to be in the fence upside down. So you definitely have to tell yourself, you have to remind yourself, hey, I have a wing on. Hey, I don't. But it's definitely racing wingless has made me a lot better wing racer. You learn car control so much better. I mean, I love racing with a wing, but just as much I like racing without a wing, because it definitely puts more in the driver's hands. The wing just keeps the car, planted to the track so much more, even with the 3x5 Sportsman wings, it locks the car down a lot harder than obviously racing wingless. And, some of my guys, I'm not going to mention names that I race with, they've came right up and told me, they're like, how do you jump in a wingless car and do so well? I struggle with it. And it's like, I don't know. I did it so long, or I did it so much at Path Valley over the years that I've just got very comfortable with it.
One of the races that really stands out to me, and I'll give a little bit of credit to the division, is the wingless at BAPS. And the picture that we opened with, I don't know if you saw it on there, that you were up on the wall, just all hanging out. That race was one of the best races I've seen in a long time in any division anywhere. You guys were knocking the fence down that day in the feature, like it was USAC. I mean, legit. Like, I was just in awe watching you guys go around this place, and I'm like, there was not very many up there doing it. You were Cliff or Billy Bryan, one of the two that likes the top, just absolutely ripping the fence. And I stood there and was just like, this is cool. I'm in the infield, like taking pictures, and I put my camera down and was like, this is badass. So, like, a credit to you and that group to when it's there. I mean, it's as good as anywhere. What do you? I mean, is it hard to leave that now that you are? Do you think that's gonna be?
Yeah.
You're gonna miss it?
You kind of the guy when you race long enough in a division, you know who you have to beat on which night on certain tracks. Obviously, when it's dead dry, slick, you have guys that are very good at hugging the bottom, driving through the middle, driving off straight. And then obviously when there's a heavy cushion, you have your list there. But yeah, when I run wingless, I pretty much know if there's a heavy cushion, that's probably where I'm going to be. Whether that's 10 feet off the wall or a foot off the wall. And then as you said, Cliffy Bryan's very good at that also. We've had some great battles this year, especially at Bedford. The first time we raced, it was on the fence at both ends, and it was lightning fast out there. That's a track I went to last year. I'm actually proud to say I'm undefeated there. I've ran 3 times there and won all 3 times, but I've had to work for it. All 3, but especially 2 of them. I had to run Cliffy down last year. He led till like lap 14, I think, and I got him with maybe like 6 to go. But yeah, it is a very good class. Steve did a very good job, and everybody that's had their hands in that deal as far as making that division. I know there's a lot of people that, they're upset because the division split and everything, and that's a whole different story. But the wingless division's doing very well, carrying themselves and getting a lot of races, and I like racing that division also.
It's been entertaining to watch the few times that I've got to do it this year. And we're friends of the show, Brett Perigo. We got pretty close with him, and he sort of introduced all of us a little bit to it. And probably, being friends with him brought us out to watch him a little bit. And I got to go watch some of the wingless at Path Valley this year. Both times I went, it was so heavy that it was like, it was sketchy. Like, I'll be honest, they tore up a lot of race cars. That definitely needs to be wide for you guys to be great. Kudos to Path Valley for even racing those nights because I got to go watch a race. But just pretty cool all the way around. The wing stuff, I didn't get to see as much the last 2 years simply because a lot of the nights that they race, I'm look, I'm a 410 snob. I'm at Williams Grove, I'm at Port, I'm at Lincoln. But when you guys run, it's always entertaining to me. For years when I was going to Lincoln as a kid and a young adult, watching Eichelberger carry the right front like 2 feet off the ground at Lincoln, it's not a big track. That was like in his MO. I just thought, like, I know a lot of the country is like, what in the world are these cars? But for us, I think it's nostalgic. It's a throwback. It's grassroots, but it's also extremely competitive. And okay, let's talk about this year moving forward. Going into a 410, are you keeping any equipment to dabble back into the Sportsman?
Yeah, we are. So we had 2 chassis with the Sportsman. We currently have 1. Motor wise, we actually still have 2. So we are gonna. We have some supporters that really like the Sportsman series and want us to at least stay involved a little bit. They have ties to BAPS and everything, so we do have to do that. Wingless side, I'm not sure yet how much to. We'd like to do a little bit of wingless if everything. We got so many like pieces moving right now. We're not sure exactly how many races yet we're going to run, but like I have my dad's race. We always do every year, the end of April. We're going to do that. We're going to do the 100 lapper. and we'll just go from there. But yeah, we are going to dabble a little bit in it, but our focus is on 410, obviously, and I think it's probably, how well does that go? If that goes really well, then maybe less sportsman racing. But if we have our struggles, which I know we're going to have some struggles, it's growing pains. Then we'll probably run maybe a few more sportsman races. But our goal is to become a 410 team and be a legit 410 team. And I really, I think it's on my shoulders to do that, because I really feel like we have the equipment for sure. And, Scott's worked on 410s years ago and stuff. And so it's not like it's a complete new team. He has a lot of experience in 410 racing, and we're going to have great stuff and a lot of stuff. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, but we are going to dabble in sportsman a little bit.
I would say your competition probably hates you saying that, but Jimmy, Chris, what do you got for him?
I'll jump in quick because Tony, you mentioned going back to run the Sportsman 100. I know this past year was your first win. I was there that night. That was a pretty cool night for me to be as a fan a part of. What do you remember about that race? That was an interesting. That was a tough race too with Dillinger and.
Yeah. So when I remember the 100 lapper, the first thing I think about is we had a dominant car all year long. And for some reason that night we did not have, and we were supposed to win that race. And the reason I say that, I feel like I've had the best race car in that race and not won it. But, that's one of those races I told myself all week long, all month leading up to it, you have to finish. You have to finish. And we definitely didn't have the fastest race car. The 30 had the fastest race car for sure. But he didn't finish. And, Scott and I are good friends. We pit beside each other. And, at the end, he came up and he said, "Hey, that's the way it works out. I didn't finish. You did. You won." But yeah, it was a race that, you have to finish. We finished. He didn't. On Deck had a great car. He was leading for a while and ended up breaking, I think, right when I was on his tail.
I think you were catching him. He caught a lap car, I think, and messed up.
We had caught him, but yeah, we had some motor issues throughout the year, and we just had a motor that night we were running it. It got the job done. Don't get me wrong, but with our gear combination that night and everything, it just didn't line up like we had there. And I was actually pretty frustrated at the break. But they made a few changes and was able to, like I said, we were able to finish it off and won the race. So I'm thankful for that. That was a race that I wanted to check off before I, left the division, even though I'm not completely leaving it, but, we're going to really cut back. So it'll be hard to go back and, win races with them when you're not there every week, So I really wanted to get that under my belt.
Sure. Jimmy, what do you got?
Get a couple questions here from the viewers here. First one and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but John Fulton, with the division split after Silver Springs closed up, where do you see the Super Sportsman division headed? What does the future look like?
I don't know. I it's hard because car counts aren't great, obviously, especially on the wing side. It seems like, they're falling and like guys retire because like we talked about it earlier. The sportsman division is kind of it seems like the older guys do, they achieve, they do better. They win more races. It seems like the veterans in that division seem to always be on top. But it seems like when the veterans retire, like Rich, Eichelberger retired, we're not replacing them. So that worries me a little bit. But then everybody also wants to say that, all the car counts are dropping, but, they're dropping in every division because a lot of people forget at Silver Springs, when Silver Springs was great and big and a lot of cars, they didn't have, the 358s weren't near as big as they are now. The legend cars. There's so many more divisions now that the 305s especially, that pulls away. So I hope it continues. I think the wingless are, in good shape, and I hope that the wing are too. But I think the Sportsman will be around for a while yet, I hope.
Looking at 2024 here, the plan for as far as tracks weekly, what's your plan so far? And obviously, like you said, depending on success and what we don't know, what's your plan so far?
So our plan right now is, I just got word here like an hour ago, which was good news.
Breaking
We've
news,
been waiting.
everybody. Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Our first rider motor is just about complete. So that's perfect because we do not have a motor in house yet, but there's 3 on the way. So the first one's about done. And the other 2 should be shortly after. So we're getting in better shape there. Still some pieces moving around as far as getting everything together. But Scott and I talked about this past weekend. We had our race party for the year. It's kind of the end of the 23, start of the 24. All of our sponsors and everything and team got together. And we want to be 100% ready when we go to the first race, whether that's the icebreaker, whether that's 2 weeks after the icebreaker, I'm not sure. But if everything would come together, we might be at the icebreaker, but I can't commit to that yet. But that is in the works if it works out. But most likely we're going to start at Lincoln on Saturdays, and we're going to do some stuff at Williams Grove on Fridays. Obviously, we're going to run all 9 410 shows at BAPS, mainly because that's probably where I'm going to be the most comfortable, I would think, at least at the start. And then probably venture to Port Royal too. And then we're kicking everything around after that. It just all depends on how everything goes, how we're running. I mean, there's stuff on the table as far as obviously running most of PA Speed Week, and then possibly even we'll see where we're at. We've even kicked around on going and doing some of Ohio Speed Week. So it just all depends on how quick I catch on and where we're at on speed and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables, a lot of things. Who knows what the weather does? Who knows, right?
Yep.
There's very much a who knows kind of thing, and you're in a great position being the first go around that you don't have to chase anything. You guys can kind of do what you want to do within the realm of reality. Tyler actually asked, could you see double duty at Port with the wingless Sportsman in the 410 if that schedule aligns?
Yeah, I actually think now, just to touch on this real quick, our one crew member, Scott Smith, he actually did a little bit of racing in our backup car last year. So there might be a couple times where we bring both cars and he actually runs, the wingless car or the wing car in the Sportsman division. And then I run the 410, but the 410 is going to be probably the main focus. But yeah, I absolutely think that at least once or twice this year, we'll probably, try to do something. Like Williams Grove, the opening day at Williams Grove is 410s and wingless Sportsmen. So, it's just hard to say, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, we did the double, we won the double with the wing and the wingless Sportsman, and it would be extra special if we could win a 410 race and then also a wingless Sportsman or a wing Sportsman race.
By the way, Stuart Smith in your backup car, I couldn't tell who the hell was who for a minute. At a quick glance, I couldn't tell who was in what car. I was so confused a couple of times when I was like, wait, which 88? Didn't I just see him go by? I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, he's had some experience. He's ran Legends, 305, Super Sportsman. So it was just one of those cool deals that we did, and he did an excellent job in doing that. And that just also shows how good our cars work, that, he was able to jump in there. He ran it at Path Valley like the week before, I think, and then he ran it at BAPS that week. So he ran it twice last year.
And then Brett Perigo, competition. Thankful that you're leaving. Have you ever turned laps in a sprint car before 2024?
I have not. Nope, I have not. We had planned on turning some laps last fall, but we just couldn't get the motors and everything as far as trying to get parts.
And that's wingless or wings, like no 360 or 410 ever.
No, nothing.
Don't go to Brett for advice. He hasn't put a steering wheel on right.
But no, I'm looking forward to it. I've reached out to a lot of people that have done both. The few that have. I've talked to Kevin Mouse about it and some different people, and a lot of the people I talked to and asked for advice, that follow me or know how I race, they claim that they think I'll be able to adapt fairly quickly. And I'm not saying get up to speed as far as compete for wins, but at least adapt. And I'm one that likes to, I'm definitely a charger. I mean, I love to get up on the fence and stuff. So I feel like right now with sprint cars, especially with the way the tires are, I'm not sure if that's going to change, going forward here, but the way the tires are, you gotta be aggressive. You have to keep you gotta be on them. So got to keep, because the tires obviously right now, obviously those guys, the sprint guys know a lot better than I do, but the tires aren't very good, obviously. So
I don't know what that means, Paul. But so, okay, got it. My thing was like, you're going to go to Lincoln in the icebreaker with the potential field that comes out there, and the track conditions some years are pretty narrow. It can be a challenge for sure in your first time in a winged 410. You know, a lot of guys skip that event, right? Simply because they don't want to tear up equipment, go out for the year. So
yeah, and that's the other thing. We're going to be smart about that when we do it. You can't go and just say, oh, I want to run the icebreaker and all that to be the first race, and then get yourself in a bind and get behind to start the year if you go there and tear a race car up or whatever. So yeah, we have to be smart about that. I mean, we actually have some things in the works that, if the weather permits and we get some 50-degree days before that in February and we have everything, together, we plan on, making some laps at BAPS before that. But that's if the track's ready, and we're able to make that happen.
anybody know who Paul Peters is?
No.
Nope.
I don't know. Do you know what he's saying?
No.
Nope.
Moving on. So the what was I going to say here? Talking about payouts. Craig Morrow mentioned about payouts, and that's not something I know a ton about in that division. And listen, I think with the budgets, the style of racing, I don't expect that to be a premier paying division. But do you have any thoughts on kind of the future and what that could look like?
Well, yeah, I don't like to get into that because I got friends on everything. I'm friends with the guys that own BAPS. I'm friends, So yeah, obviously I'm a driver, and I make a little bit of money doing this. So yeah, I think that I'd love to see it pay more, obviously, but the insurances are way high. I think the biggest thing is, like, when we talk about this, we talk about this a lot. My dad was racing in the '80s at the Springs, and they were racing, I think, for either 1250 or 1300 to win. Fast forward to 2024, and most of the races, you race for 1,000 to win. So everything costs 4 times the amount it used to from the '80s, but yet we race for less money. So, I mean, I see it, I get it. It definitely, it's hard, but then you got to come up with where, if the track doesn't make anything, if they don't make anything, then obviously we're not going to have a track to race at neither. So it's a fine line. There's a lot of guys just think that everybody, I think our payout is around 7,000, a total payout. So, they think, a lot of guys is like, well, they should double it and make it 15 or 14, whatever, and pay 2 to win, double everything the way back through. And I'd love to see that. But if the track's losing money week after week after week at that, because let's be honest, we're not, like you guys said, it's not a premier division where we pack the stands anymore, like they did at the Springs. So we could argue about that, for days and days and days. But yeah, so it's kind of one of them tough subjects.
For sure. And listen, again, I didn't want to put you on the spot there with that, but it seems to be a hot topic, and it is every year. Some point, it's a hot topic in a division. 358 guys talk about it a lot. The 410s, I don't know if they have much to complain about around here, at least right now. The way it looks, right? But I think these other divisions, it's tough balancing that investment versus winnings, and I've always looked at it like, well, you're really not going to make a living for your family and feed your family in these lower divisions in Central PA. So you race to your budget, and that's it. Complain about the purse is what you spend versus what you make. And if you're looking to make it a business and a winning business in a lower division, you're probably not going to be as competitive as you want to be in a lot of these, right? Because it takes, unfortunately, a little bit of a budget to run up front. It doesn't. Now, the Sportsman, what I've heard, like Brett talk about, you can do very well on a very small budget in that division. So probably bang for the buck. Do you believe it's one of the more, what's the word here?
Probably
investment friendly.
I mean, I'm not trying to like pick apart anything here yet, but definitely the wingless deal. Yes, you can, and especially at Path Valley, you need very little motor. So you can go to Path Valley with a low budget as far as even with motors, and you can be very well competitive and you can win races there. You go to race with a wing on and you run BAPS, you definitely are going to need some more motor to run up front. And I think that shows because the teams that are winning, 90% of the races at BAPS are the teams that have the best motors for sure. But the wingless part of it, absolutely. Like, you can definitely have a lot lower budget and do all right there. Cause I mean, same thing, the wingless normal payout's not quite as much, back through, but it still pays $1,000 to win, the same as the wing division.
In 410, and this will be my last question. I'll let these guys do a few here, but I had so many in my brain about like this transition in the 410. What are you looking forward to the most? Whether it's a track, an event, learning the feeling from all the people you've talked to and gathered all the information and asked all the questions you could. What are you looking forward to the most?
Probably just like realizing I made it to the top. I mean, it's the cream of the crop. You wake up and you're like, oh, we're racing today. We're racing a 410 today, but then if things go great, in a year or two, whatever, you could keep competing to win, World of Outlaw races or high limit races. You don't know. I mean, it's that unknown as far as, when you race a super sportsman, you either got to go to BAPS or PF Valley or, when they do get a few races somewhere else. But when you have a 410, if you want to load up and go to Florida and race and the budget allows, you can. It's just crazy. As a kid, I always dreamed of it. Never really thought I would get there. Got a little bit late start on it. But, Scott and Lori's kind of gave me the opportunity, and we have a lot of great partners. And it's going to allow us to what I think is to, maybe I hate to use this because I'm not one to brag or anything, but we may shock some people eventually because we have, I think we're going to have the intangibles and everything under us to win races eventually once I get comfortable.
You may shock some, but I don't think any of us here will watching that for what we've been watching the last couple of years. Listen, I hope, because I think good owners, good teams, that's going to make us healthier in Central PA, and having another one in the field is just better for us as fans and better for us when those dreaded travelers come to town. So
yeah, not to break in on you there, but yeah, that's one thing. There's not a lot of new 410 teams starting, obviously because of the price of everything and all that everything. So I thought we thought it was a great time, to move on and let's build this 410 team. And there's a lot of guys leaving, whether they're going to high limit or going to the whatever, the Outlaws, or so weekly around here. There's going to be, I just read today, Devin Borden, they're going to travel a lot this year now. So, the car counts, it was a good year. It was a good time to make the jump.
Yeah. And I think Williams Grove especially, right? If you look at Williams Grove and the car counts, you're going to get a lot of seat time this year. You go to Williams Grove and you get there each week, you're going to get the seat time that is so valuable. You're not going to just run your hot laps, your heat, and a B main to learn, and that's it. You're going to get all the laps. Lincoln, there's going to be nights where, listen, 40 cars show up, right? There's going to be those nights, and Port Royal can do the same thing. But yeah, I agree with you completely. It's a good time to entry. Did you guys have discussions? And I said it was the last one, but it's not. Did you guys have discussions about doing a 358 for a year or anything in the interim? Did that come into play?
We actually did. There again, the problem we ran into was you're basically going to build your car to the same aspect as you would a 410, and you're only going to spend a little less on a motor, not a lot less if you're buying new and you're buying the best. And then you're kind of handicapped again to what you're going to be being paid and then how much you can race. I mean, yeah, you don't get me wrong, you can run at Lincoln a lot. And then I think the Grove has maybe 12 shows, but we didn't really want to invest in it. And then a year from now, get rid of those motors and then move to 410. We just figured, we're going all in. If it takes a full year to get up to speed, it takes a full year, but we're just going to go all in and go this route. But we talked about that. But we were actually more looking into the 360 deal where we could leave Central PA and go race more, where, 358, you're kind of stuck here again. It's almost, I feel like the 358s are kind of almost like the super sportsman. It's Central PA and that's it, where a 360, you can kind of travel wherever, Knoxville, Eldora, Ohio, wherever.
Chris, Jimmy?
I'll go first. Two questions. So, Tony, what's your expectations for this year? You mentioned get the seat tag with Thorne, but what realistically would make this a successful season for you, looking back on it the end of the year?
A successful season to me with the equipment we have and the knowledge that's there as far as setting cars up, all that stuff. I think we should get a local win this year. I think we should win a race at a local track, and that's Williams Grove, Lincoln, or Port Royal. I really do believe that. As long as I can carry my end of the bargain. But yeah, just a good solid year learning. Hopefully we don't tear a lot of stuff up. Obviously, that's what makes everything get expensive when you tear a lot of stuff up or have motor issues. But just to have a good solid year to grow, and it would be awesome to roll into the races at the end of the season knowing, hey, we have a top 10, top 5 car every night we roll in. That'd be awesome, but we'll see where it goes.
And then the second question, so far, what's your most memorable win in your career, or what win do you most want to, what race you most want to win?
I mean, obviously the 100 lapper, being the first father and son to ever do that. I don't know how many how many guys really, I don't know how many in the division. I know the Eichelbergers, obviously, Aaron and Rich. I know Aaron never won it. Rich did. The fantasies, but I'm not sure. I don't think Bob ever won it. So Jay or Steve couldn't. So I'm not sure how many different, but it was cool to do that, being first father, son, to win the biggest race we raced for. And then I this year, for some reason, just because it was such a dominating deal, because we kind of just dominated both races there. The Path Valley deal this year, where we won both races, and really it was the wing race was pretty cool because we were just dicing through traffic and everything. And Scott told me then later, he said when we were walking across the track, he said I looked at the guys and he said that's why we're taking him 410 racing. So that kind of that kind of made me that made me feel good, because I knew it was a good show, and I knew we were really good that night, and we had a lot of space between first and second that night.
Sure.
A couple of questions here before we let you go from the viewers again. Brett Perigo asking, there's a week in June where you could take those things off the sprint car, and that was something I was thinking. Is like USAC racing anything maybe in your horizon?
I mean,
do you like the wingless stuff so much that you might want to do that? Or
I mean, I think that's still to be answered. We're definitely, I love racing wingless, as he knows. We talk sometimes at the track, but it's definitely a possibility. I think it would be where things add up to that point. If we're doing really good with the wing on by then I could see maybe doing it. If we're struggling and we're not really confident, because let's be honest, a driver, it's confidence is everything. So see where our confidence is at that time with the wing on, and maybe we will take that off for a few races that week.
That'd be cool to see. And then John Fulton, one more question. He has, what advice has your dad given you about the 410s?
410s. He just says they're going to be easier to drive than a Sportsman. So when he raced Sportsman, obviously, there was no power steering. Now we have power steering. So that's one of the things. But no, mainly what I've heard from a lot of guys, that big wing, you have a lot more downforce there. So the cars are playing it harder. Kevin Nouse has even told me that before. He said it's much easier to drive a 410 than it is a Super Sportsman. So that's about it, really. He's actually in Florida right now for a couple months. So we haven't been talking as much as we normally do. But yeah, he always gives me advice or tells me, this or that. But yeah, probably that's the biggest thing he said, is that he thinks it'll be easier for me.
Oh,
very good. Definitely appreciate you coming here tonight. Tell us a little bit about the partners, help you get up and down the road, previous, and I guess you don't have to worry about previous if they're gone, but give us the list, man. If you have them written down, give us the list of who's going to help you out this year.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I don't forget anybody here, because we have a lot of support, and it means everything. But obviously Hess Iron, Scott's business, they've been, a big backing, obviously, since we've started. R&R Motorsports this year came on and got involved, and that's Randy and Roger McKeon, they've owned race cars before, 358s, 410s. They kind of teamed up with us and helped us as far as cars. They brought a bigger trailer to our deal that, we didn't have to go buy one. And they're also going to supply us with a motor. Reese's, Donnie Reeser from Reese's Ice Cream. I mean, we wouldn't be, we'd be a 410 team, but we would not be anywhere close to what we are as far as having 4 race cars sitting there and all these motors and everything. He's been a huge help. McCoy Brothers Construction, they've been with me since I've started. Machining America, Interstate Garage Doors came on board this year. They're a new sponsor that stepped up. Truck Specialties, they've been with us the last 2 years. High Performance Lubrication supplied us with all of our oil needs and stuff for the year, which was a huge deal. That just kind of came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting that. Chamberlain Winger, Sanctuary Services, Custom Cut Flooring, Piper Advertising, Ken Brown Trucking, Gray Concrete, the Carlisle AmVets, and Yo Construction. And also the Frosty Putter, which is also the Reese's deal there. So yeah, we just, like I said, we have unbelievable help. And quite honestly, when I think of how much help we get, we're just it's kind of overwhelming, really, that Scott and I, or whatever, we built all these partnerships over the last 2 years, and some of these guys have came with me since I started, 9-10 years ago. But yeah, great support, and that's what it takes. You need it.
There you go, Tony, good buddy there. Wish you lots of 410 success, and don't be a stranger to the Sportsman. He misses you already. Like this guy, you haven't even been on the racetrack yet in the 410, and he misses you. Poor Tony. Poor Tony. Love that.
Yeah, well, we'll be there a few times. So
cool, man. Hey, we appreciate you so much for joining us. We'll get you out of here. You can enjoy your evening, and listen, cross our fingers. Good weather. We'll see you at the icebreaker.
All righty. Hey, thanks. And thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Thanks, Tony.
Yep.
Jimmy is muted. Okay. Yep, there it is.
I'm surprised he's not crying yet.
There
My
it
bad.
is. I'm not watching. How's the game going?
Not very good.
Okay, moving
Don't
on.
talk about it.
Anyway,
Not a football podcast. Not a football
Yep,
podcast.
not a football
Do
podcast.
you want to end it now?
Thank
I don't.
God.
No
Well-
one wants to see you actually cry.
No,
or
we do.
swear.
We do want to see that, but we want to hear if you're willing to share about your weekend, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's still yeah. So I had the opportunity probably a couple months ago. I got a message on Facebook from Mr. McDonald from the Eastern Motorsports Press Association to join the program, to join the press association, and signed up for it and kind of checked it out, and they invited us up to their year-end banquet, which was this past weekend up in Wilkes-Barre, and just sort of experience what that's all about, and just get to know that. It's networking. It's basically just Northeast media folks, whether it's photographers, writers, journalists, media people, whatever. So I went up, drove up, and I already did the Saturday portion of it. Got there Saturday morning, entered a few photos in the contest. Wasn't at all prepared at all. Didn't really know what I was doing. Got some good information from Bob Yurko, photographer himself, just a great talent, great guy. So I was prepared enough to show up, and I didn't do great, but I did get an honorable mention on one photo, which for me was like winning, because as bad as I presented everything, I'll take that. So, and I'll be honest with you, it was I made a Facebook post about it, and not that anyone follows me or cares, but it was just unbelievable the amount of talent in that room, and it was humbling and inspiring all at once. Like, hey, I think I can do this, and also, holy crap, I'm not nearly ready for this at the same time. So, photo contest was cool. The amazing amount of talent that was in that room, and again, years of experience, was just cool to witness. And the photos. I'm a race fan, so the photos that I got to see that these guys, composed and took in their eyes and how they think was just amazing. I saw Blue Angel pictures of Daytona. There was dirt track. There was go-karts. I mean, drag racing. The amount of racing that people took in last year just in that room was amazing. Got to see Dave Arterbright speak. He was one of the honored guests there during the day. Listen to him kind of talk about his career a little bit. And then in the evening, they had the actual awards banquet. And somebody said that in that room, there was over 2,000 feature wins sitting in that room. Billy Pouch, Matt Shepard. They both Billy Pouch got the Hall of Fame. Matt Shepard, Driver of the Year. Um, Matt Hirschman from the asphalt side was there. He won 50% of the races he entered this past season. I mean, 50% winning percentage. You talk about showing up and a guy just, who's going for second today, right? It was one of those deals. So, and then there was more and more. So, just an amazing event that the EMPA put on. And oh yeah, Brett Hearn was there. Good. I forgot about Brett Hearn. Like the amount of talent, and it was just like I was just like a kid in a candy store. Like, holy shit, I'm in the same room as these people. Like, I'm a grown ass man, and they're heroes to me. Like these guys, these names. Like I don't know a lot about Brett Hearn. I obviously know the name. Never saw him race. And listen, like I said, I'm a wing sprint car snob, but I know who Matt Hirschman is. He's national on the national stage. Matt Shepard. If you don't know who that is, you're not even a race fan at this point. There you go, Tyler. Between Hearn and Pouch, that's 1,800 wins. Just those two. So
That's insane.
it was super cool. I already talked to my wife. I'm like, okay, I got the dates. I'm preparing for next year. Not only for my work and just being able to compete and look at some of that, but to go up and experience the whole event, Friday and Saturday. Pocono Raceway is involved as a sponsor. They've had some of the biggest names in the industry at that event, honored them both with awards and Hall of Fame. And I'll be honest with you, no offense to the MPA, but I had no idea that they had this pull and reach. I had no idea. And why should I? Who's the MPA if you're not involved in it? So um, it's pretty wild. And there was a video tribute from Ray Evernham to someone. They had Ray Evernham. Red Farmer did a video. He wasn't able to be there, but he got in the Hall of Fame. Red Farmer put a video up. The reach that they have in the motorsports world was just super, super impressive. Ariel Racing News had a big presence there. Earl Kraus, he was one of the big speakers there, kind of hosting the event. Just so many big players in the media world in the Northeast, and we talk about sprint cars in this room on this podcast, but not far around us is a lot of big time racing, and shame on us for not being fans of that. But listen, we are what we are. But it's pretty amazing the amount of wins and history and things that are around us that we don't really touch on a whole lot in this podcast. But eventually I'd like to get to that point and have some of these kind of people on and learn about their life and their careers. So it was just a great event. And then I scooted home early Sunday morning to avoid the snow squalls and then up there. So did not want to get stuck in any of that mess and made it home about an hour or two ahead of it. So good to go.
Yeah, they get bad up there.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't great. I was coming down the road at barely the sun is up and I'm looking around going, oh boy, but I was good. Got home safe. So all good.
Well, congratulations on the honorable mention and being there, and it sounds awesome. So it's well deserved for you. You do great work. We know that. It's glad to see other people, getting out there, starting to see that too. So that's awesome.
Coming 2025, man. This is going to be my year. 2024, and that awards bank for next year, I'll be prepared. I'll be ready to go.
Hell yeah.
We're going to get at least another honorable mention, or show up, one or the other.
Well, that's cool. Another thing that we want to probably touch on before we get into some news and notes is Chris. We kind of touched on it last week. It kind of got rolled out, pun intended, this week. So talk about what you got going on.
Coming here probably in the next few weeks, we'll have an announcement. Tony Sharp and I are going to join forces with PA Dirt Track and Creative and Sportsman Media to do the Rolling Podcast. It's going to be all about super sportsmen's, wingless sportsmen's. Super excited about it. We're going to be talking to these guys monthly at first, talking about races that are coming, happening, maybe some driver profiles. Try to get to know that division, put a spotlight on those guys like Tony Jackson talked about that division and some of the names that our audience maybe doesn't know. Like I said, like even just three of us, a lot of times Saturday we're being 410 people at Port Royal or Lincoln. But last year I got to go to BAPS for the Sports 100. That was super cool being a part of that experience, and I'm definitely going back again. And just the more involved I got in those pits, following like Brett Perigo and and Eric Rutz around a couple times, made me want to keep doing it. So joining up with Tony Sharp there, it's gonna be exciting, and excited to get rolling.
Man, what a perfectly timed podcast, right? Like,
How about that?
Yeah.
man, it's like we planned it out.
Just a little. And me, I'm just gonna sit here and cry because my Eagles are getting stomped right now. So that's
Are they really? I didn't look.
10-0.
I do think
And
it was.
Bucks are driving again. So whatever. Anyway, so let's get into racing. Chili Bowl this past weekend. Touch on that a little bit. Logan Seavey back to back. He's been pretty much, so dominant. Not just
They're
obviously
everywhere.
at the Chili Bowl. He had such a year. Silver Crown. He got the 4 crown at Eldora Midget Championship. He's been so good, and it just is kind of like bookend on the year between last year's Chili Bowl and this year's Chili Bowl. Plus, he won the Race of Champions this past week, so hell of a run by him. End of the feature kind of built up and kind of rubbered down, so it kind of got boring. And there was a lot of debate: should it be 55 laps? Should they change Saturday program a little bit? So because either you get it real heavy and it's boring for the first 25 laps, or it gets rubber down and it's rubber down on the bottom like it was for 25 laps. It seemed like they can't win. And when you put so many laps, you start with a P main at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever. It's kind of hard to avoid with so many cars on the track. So, maybe they'll be looking at maybe a different format or something. But and the other big new story that really came out, which is probably what most people are talking about, is Timez. B-main, final B-main, was in a transfer spot, and Cannon McIntosh threw a slider, turned 3 and 4, and flipped them.
He got cannonballed, as he said.
He got cannonballed, slide or die. There's a lot of debate. Hey, Timez would have did the same thing, or, there's people on both sides of the fence. When he was flipped over, he must have threw something at an official because he was getting blasted with a fire extinguisher, and they were kicking him out. Yep. It was a steering wheel, and they were kicking him out. He was on his way out the door. They ended up bringing him back in, looking at it again. So, just is what it is. So, yeah. Any thoughts on Chili Bowl? I mean, that's pretty much sums it up. I just think Logan Seavey's just been the man, especially in anything wingless.
Yeah, it would have been a fun race, wider track, if we had more to see him and Buddy go at it. But Chili Bowl is gonna Chili Bowl, and we talk about it, we can complain about it. It doesn't matter. I mean, the best 3 drivers of the week were all up there, and just unfortunately couldn't really race it out beyond that. But Logan Seavey has been an animal for most of the last calendar year. So,
yeah.
Dason Pursley was definitely a standout for me. That track doesn't take rubber. He may be up there for that. Super impressive. I think that, listen, the Chili, they can't win, right? Everybody has so much hype for that event, so many cars, and all they won is a great A main last night. And listen, they did so good all damn week. Those tracks were so good all week long.
Those features all week were so good.
Would we have given up a prelim night shitty track for that? Absolutely. But listen, it's not a failed event. It's a great event. They did a great job. The whole Timez cannonball thing, it's that right there, like, it epitomizes midget racing in today's world. The whole incident.
Yeah.
Okay. Throw stone, the whole thing, you don't throw stones in a glass house. If that doesn't scream what happened there, nothing does. If you don't understand that reference, that accent is that reference. Everyone immediately goes slide or die. That's what he says. And then everybody goes, this kid's a weapon and he's done it before and they have a past. They all have a past because they've all done it to each other.
Yep.
Like, very few of them can walk out there and say, I'm a winner and I don't do that. There's not many in this world, in the midget world. I have no problem with it because it was bound to happen and someone's going to get pissed if they were on the losing end of it. Period. End of sentence. Until they decide to stop doing it themselves, they're all going to keep doing it. So
yeah.
I wasn't mad about it. I didn't take a side on it. It sucks for Timez, and I don't blame him for being pissed.
Yeah.
But would other guys in a different spot do any different? You've seen it hundreds of times over the course of a season. These guys throw bombs at each other and are just lucky there's not a car out there. They don't take care of that car. Like, they're no longer on a slider. Do you take care of the other car? The car that's getting slid is the one who has to make a decision. if they have an opportunity to. So that's what midget racing is anymore, and I don't have a problem with it because if I have a problem
It's the
with it, the
standard
driver
now.
I like is gonna do it to someone. And
Yeah.
I'm a hypocrite then, right? If you're a fan of a driver and you're pissed that they got slid and taken out, guess what? You you better not be mad when your driver does it. Or
Yep.
you better carry the same damn energy. Because if you're against sliders like that, you better have that same damn energy when your driver does it, because they're going to. It's very rare. So that's my take on that. I just think that it's very much a stones in a glass house scenario.
Yeah, it's for a transfer spot into the biggest midget race of the year. You know what I mean? And the shitty part is that they were both in transfer spots, and it was really unnecessary. But you don't know that when you're out there. So I think that's maybe where that comes through a little bit is the frustration there. I thought Timez handled it great. You know, he used it. He just dropped this video, and the thumbnail's hilarious. But he used it to, you know, promote himself, and he was having fun with it. He was mad, obviously, but you know, I thought I don't think you could handle it better than he did. He handled it with, you know, he's like, hey, we put on a show, and that's what he came here for. So, you know, still sucks they didn't make it. You know, sucks that they both could have been in the feature, but it is what it is. And yeah, it's just kind of sad that that's what midget racing is at this point. But you know, such is life, I guess.
We're talking about it. That's all they can ask for.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that's really it on that. But yeah, they did a great job with track prep all week. It is a little bit of a shame that the last 20 laps or so sucked, but it wasn't that bad. I thought the beginning of the feature was good. It was fun. Buddy was tracking him down at one point. So yeah. Speaking of Buddy Kofoid, quick note on him is people outside of finishing second at Chili Bowl, he also declared to go full-time World of Outlaw racing next year, which is a big pickup for the Outlaws, I think, in the 83 Roth car. So where do we see him maybe fitting in kind of in the tiers there, just right off the bat?
I think if the car holds together, he's very much a threat for a championship, really.
I'm not going as far as championship.
No, I'm not saying win it. I think
yeah.
Second, I wouldn't surprise me if he won a championship, but I would think probably a third, somewhere in the top 5 for sure. But third is kind of the spot I have him in.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I look at Logan, Gravel, Macedo.
Yeah.
I
put him.
I don't know. Top 5 at the back half of the top 5, maybe 5th through 6th, because there's just not 10 cars to me that are going to be at that level, and he has all the backing he needs, and we know he has the talent. I just felt like he got kind of quiet for a while this year after he got an 83, and it was like right out of the gate they were good, and it just sort of seemed like he was just kind of, and then he had some wins, and it was kind of quiet. So I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe he comes out and puts up a 10-win season. I don't know, but I think it's going to be tough to break through that Gravel Macedo Logan type barrier night in and night out. I mean, time will tell. I think Buddy's one of the obviously top talents in the world in a 410 sprint car. So
absolutely,
it's about going and getting it done at this point. You know, we talked about Gio that way when Gio first got into the 410s, and Gio's not out there winning 20 races a year. You know, so you don't know, right? So I guess we'll find out. Time will tell.
I think the only question I have is, can he do it for a 90 race season or however many races it is?
Right.
You know, that's going to be always the thing with, you know, he's going to be a rookie now on the tour. So, you know, we know he can win. We know he's very good. But I think, and it's something that we saw with Gio. Gio really he was very consistent actually for a rookie on the series, but, you know, not many wins, just kind of up there. You know, and I kind of see Buddy being the same way, right around the back end, you know, maybe squeak it into the top 5 of points right there with Shots and probably Gio and Hodenshield, you know, right there. So, you know, can Buddy finish races? Can he, you know, and he generally does, don't get me wrong, but like for over the course of the season, can he have like less than 5 or 6 DNFs? That'll be the key for him.
Are they going to have Toyota power? Because they blew up a lot of theirs last year.
That's a good question, and I'm not sure.
I believe I heard yes, but that's why I said I hope they have those gremlins figured out.
Right.
We'll see.
That matters, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You look at the reliability of the top teams in the world of Outlaws and the championship seasons. They don't not only to have part failures but motor failure. They don't. It doesn't happen. It's very rare, right? You can even have a crash, come back and finish, but you ain't finishing if you blow up a motor in the feature. So
Right.
that matters. Those part failures do matter. So if you're talking about points, that's what can hold him back. Is DNS
Yep.
is really what it'll be. We know he can drive a race car. That's not in debate. It's that consistency in finishing races. Absolutely.
For sure.
So he'll be fun to watch. And like I said, that's a big pickup for the Outlaws. That adds another big young talent to that roster. Not that they were struggling, but I mean, obviously, High Limit has 16 drivers, so them picking up another big name is good for both. For all of us as fans. Again, like we talked about it over and over, just how good this potentially could be for fans. So that'll be interesting. Tony mentioned it a little bit, just kind of before we went on air. Devin Borden, they're bringing back Chris Shuttlesworth after they dropped the Shuttlesworth name because Jim is gone. And then they're talking about going out on the road a little bit more. I'll trip home to Skagit and doing some other traveling, hitting some big races. So that's interesting. I didn't see that really from them. Kind of like a 180 of what I thought they were going to do, but I think it's a good move. We'll see. Time will tell.
I think it's good for Devin's development to go more than just Port Royal. He can run Port Royal. We know he can run Port Royal, and he's okay at a lot of other places. It's a good chance for him to take that next step.
So let me ask you, is not take away from that Devin conversation, but who's competing on the Port Royal points title this year?
You got Chase Eats.
Okay. No, like legit contenders to win the title. Who's going to show up every week?
Chase Eats.
No, Chase
Okay,
Eats.
just make sure. I'm not arguing that. I'm just
Logan, right? Logan Wagner's.
Logan's supposed to run.
I
think they're supposed to run. I don't know if they're going to run full time in points, but that's probably where he's going to run. Justin Whittle, Mike Walter, Dylan Sisting. I think those are your big five right there. And that's a competitive five. Halligan will be in there. Yeah, for sure.
Mike Wagner, if he's healthy.
Mike Wagner, yeah. I don't know what he's always a threat. I mean, he's always so consistent there, but we haven't heard about where he's at physically and all that. So hopefully everything's okay.
I would actually think, based on that list alone, I would say Chase Dietz might be the favorite if they are truly running for points there. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really know. Chase hasn't run there very much, so we don't really know. But he's in one of the, he's in the car that won a bunch of titles there. So
and he did put out a schedule. If he's not running for points, he ain't missing many because he put out every weekend is Port Royal. So and it sucks I won't see him at Lincoln much. Just the big races, speed week type events at Lincoln. I like watching Chase run Lincoln, so that kind of sucks a little bit for sure.
It does look like he's running a lot of the Grove though.
I think he's chasing Grove with 2D. Yeah, he talked about that. That was his plan last year too. Was hit all those Grove because the payouts are pretty solid. Right. So
exciting stuff.
So we'll see.
I'm excited about the Port Royal title this year. I think it's as wide open as it's been. I believe. Even if Logan Wagner does run them all, I believe it's as wide open as it's ever been. And I think you're going to see some new winners at Port Royal this year too. I think Mike Walters is going to get a win at Port Royal this year. Cody Lehman got one last year. I've seen some pretty big improvements by some of the young guys, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see some young guns win some races at Port Royal this year.
And Mike Walter was a guy knocking on the door a lot last year, just had a lot of bad luck, but
by the way, the classic down in Australia, I heard it's gonna be on Flow. No,
is it?
That's what I heard. I thought I saw someone post that's gonna be on Flow this weekend.
Interesting.
Matt, maybe you can help us out with that. I thought I saw that. I didn't look ahead at the whatever, but if that's on Flow, I know where I'm gonna be.
Yeah, I'll be watching.
Classic
is on Flow. Cool.
Let's go.
So his pick is Jack Goodyear or Carson Macedo for the Classic. There's a lot of, you got, I think Rico's down there, obviously, Hod and Shield, Sweet, Brock Zierfoss, Carson Macedo.
It's the Classic. The roster's going to be incredible.
And then you got all the good Australian drivers as well. So
we don't even know much about. Like,
yeah,
I know Jock, obviously, I know Jock, but there's a lot of good Aussie guys down there that are gassers, man. I mean, our boy, I don't know if he's racing, but is Ryan Newton going to be in this deal? That's my boy,
oh
right?
yeah,
So he's down there. So maybe he, I don't know how his season's gone. I've been following along a little bit, but I feel like there's two seasons down there. Guys are racing over here, they're racing over there. I don't know how it works in that country. If they are they like
it's
24 hours
Western
apart?
and I think Western and Eastern are so far apart that
Yeah.
kind of have to, kind of like how California and PA is. Ow.
Oh,
So it's kind of like that. So Ryan Newton is nominated. So there you
there
go.
we go. So a lot of familiar names that we know a little bit about, and then there's going to be some names. I think there last year was somebody who, like, I remember watching, and it was just a young guy, and like just shocked the world a little bit, and how he ran. And I wish I could remember his name, but there's some impressive drivers down there, man, and I'm excited to see it for sure. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I like watching those guys and the young Aussie guys. I'm used to seeing our guys go out and dominate, So I'm okay if our guys don't. To be honest, I don't take that kind of pride in it. I just want to see these young Aussie guys. They're gassers, dude. They're insane.
Yeah.
Running from spiders and snakes their whole life. Now they're gassing up on a sprint car.
If I had to pick, I'm going. Callum. I don't want. That's a name I've been noticing is Callum Williamson.
Yeah, I think we're
it
gonna
seems
hear
like
about that name soon. I think
probably that's one.
I've heard that
And
name
also
rumors.
the Western Australia Speed Week or whatever versus the USA. It's been basically like it seems like the podium every night has been Brad Sweet, Callum Williamson, and Brock Zierfoss with Rico sprinkled in there. So he's been there like every night. So he's definitely right up there with some really, he's definitely he has to be, a top 5 favorite, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So
I think he could have a big 2024 season coming up. So to be determined here. We'll see. Yeah. Spoiler.
For sure. Well, guys, is I guess that's it.
That's it. We're done. We're out.
Jimmy's gonna go probably make it.
Next week. Next week guest.
Are we talking about it?
Are we talking? Can we say it? Right.
I guess we could.
It'd be a little bit of. Go ahead.
It's confirmed that as of this moment, it's confirmed. If next week we get here and that person's not here, that's probably our fault. It's probably our fault somehow.
Brad Strasser from Port Royal will be joining us next week. We'll get another little, maybe, behind the scenes of a track type of point of view from him and get to talk to him next week and get to know him a little bit. So
they've had an interesting off season. I'm excited to hear what's been going on up there. It's been, the bridge is done, right? Like the bridge is up and running and all the other changes. Made some news in the off season. So I'm excited to hear what's going on.
What a time to be alive. Port's excited about a bridge and the Grove doesn't have one. So with that, thanks, Tony Jackson, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Definitely keep an eye out on him. That was a great interview. And we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
See you.